So I actually asked my eldest daughter if she wanted this dress downsizing because it's just too tight on the top for me now. And she didn't like it for one reason or another. Now, the fabric is very typical 60s style. And that's why I like the dress in the first place, because it looked 1950s, 60s. But because I don't want to get rid of it, so I've decided I'm going to simply cut the top off, and I'm going to make it a fitted pencil skirt. It is lined and I'm going to keep it lined, but at the same time I'm going to be putting elastic waistband in. Let's get started. And I'm just going to simply start by laying that down flat. I'm feeling there that the lining is laying flat underneath, and I'm simply going to start. There's a bust dart there. I'm going to aim to cut just under that, so I'm just going to mark that first of all, and I'm going straight across. And then I'm going to cut this off. Now, let me just see where the lining comes to. The lining is only an inch shorter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that lining through there, because I want the lining a little bit shorter than that. Because sometimes when it's only an inch short, if you sit down and let's say you're crossing your legs or whatever, sometimes you see the lining, and I don't want that. So I'm going to fetch that another inch up. So I'm going to just mark. Now at this moment in time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try this skirt on over my trousers to see how much room I've got. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, so that's going to be fine, that on top. Now I've got, because what I want to do is I want to put a little split in the back, so because I'm going to taper it, I still want to be able to walk in it. Right, so I've got enough there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it inside out. So I've got, this is the lining, and all I did on the skirt was the same as what I'm going to do now. I'm going to get my bar, and literally I'm measuring that. It's measuring 22 inch, so I'm going to mark it at 11 inch, so I'm going to get the seam right down the centre. Okay, and I'm marking it from the inside of the stitching, and obviously as I go down, because it's getting wider, this is getting wider, so I need to keep adjusting the mark as I'm going. So that's 22.5, so then I need to mark it at 11.25, and that's going to keep it down the centre. Right, so that's measuring 23.2, so that's going to be 11.5, 11, just under 11.75. And that will do it. And then on the hem, again, that's the same, 11.75. So I'm going to just get my stick and I'm going to mark all the measurements so I've got a straight line to cut down. And then I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm literally cutting straight down the centre. So what I'm going to do now, I'm literally going to overlock down the 4 seams. The 2 seams on the lining, the two seams on the skirt. That's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I've decided I'm going to make the split about 5 inches. So what I'm going to do, I've got the right sides facing each other, and then I put the hems together. I've put these edges together, and it's going to be a small turner because I've not got loads of fabric to play with. So with that 5 inches there, that's where I'm going to clip it at the top. And then the rest, I'm not going to bother clipping it because it's literally just stitching down that run. So I've got the lining, and I'm going to do exactly the same. I'm going to put, because this is higher up, I'm just going to put a smaller split on this one. I'll just put a 3 inch one because it's 2 inches shorter than the hem. So that's 5, so this is going to be 3. And just pin that there. Right, let's go and get these stitched up. So I'm just going to start sewing first of all straight up the seam after where the clip is, because where that is, that's going to be me opening. And I'm just going to aim to be stitching just inside the overlocking. Get my edges together. And then what I want to do at the bottom is I'm simply going to get the end, I'm going to put the overlocking inside and under the seam, so it's going to be underneath. So I'm just going to turn that over, and it's been turned over the same width as what it's been stitched all the way up. And then I'm going to press it flat. Just get that overlocking tucked inside. Get your scissors and force it inside so all the unsightly cotton is not going to be on show. And then I'm just going to run up the side of that on the outside. I'm going to turn it, and then I'm going to come across the top, and then I'm going to come down this side, and I'm just going to do the same. I'm going to get the overlocking, and I'm going to tuck it underneath that seam. Tucked under nice and well. Right, so let me just cut the excess off there. Get it off. And then you can just see there that that is the split. So I'm going to do the exact same on this. I think I'll start off at the top on this one. It doesn't make any difference which side you start on. And once again, I'm just going to be stitching just on the inside of the overlocking, so I'm not taking any extra fabric from the skirt. And you can see there's no need to pin or clip this. It's literally a straight seam that you're going to sew straight down. Up to the clip. Just get rid of that clip, and I need to do a couple more stitches after it. I'm going to do a good back strap because it's a split. Cut that off, and then once again, to make the split, I'm going to turn the overlocking down again, and I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to make sure that the only width I'm turning over is the same amount as what I've got there, so it runs true. Always back tap, remember, at the beginning and the end. And then I'm going to stitch to the outside of the overlocking, turning it round again. I'm going to stitch across till I get near to the edge on the opposite side. I'm going to turn the overlocking in at the bottom, and then turn it over again, and then I'm going to stitch on the outside of the overlocking once again, and then back tack on the end. Now I'm going to lay these on the table so I can show you the splits, and I'm going to measure if it needs tapering in and for the elastic. Okay guys, so this is the split. You can see it there. That's how it looks on the inside. This is how it's looking at the minute. I've got the little split in the back, but I want that tapering because you can see that's quite wide and I want it tapering. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to taper the seams down the side so that it becomes more of a pencil skirt. Okay, so what I'm going to do is on the seams, the side seams where I'm going to be tapering it in, I'm going to be unpicking the stitching on the hem so that when I come to rejoin it, in fact, you know what, I'm going to unpick it all, because then there's not going to be any unsightly back tacking in it. It'll just be a nice smooth flowing stitch running throughout. So I am going to unpick it all. Right, so I'm just going to carry on doing this off camera because it's small stitching. It might take me a couple of minutes. I've got that all unpicked, and what I'm going to start off doing now is I'm going to take some safety pins and I'm literally going to work my way, starting at the hem, working my way up and pin them. Then I'm going to try it on again to see whether it's tight enough for me. So all the hems unpicked, as you can see. So I'm going to probably start from, I was going to start at the bottom but I'm not. I'm going to come down to probably where my hips are, and where the seam is there I'm going to put my first pin in, and I'm just going to start tapering it in. Just want to try and mirror that to the other side. Right, now let me just measure that here as to where I started. Right, my first pin's in here. I'm going to turn this the right way and actually look at how tight it looks. So you can just see there where it's taking shape. Just repinned it and gone in more. So you can see there that it's a lot more narrower and tighter than what it was. And that'll be great. So I'm going to go and pin the lining, so that's the same, and then I'm going to go and stitch them. So I'm just tapering the seams in. Right, so I'm going to put proper pins down the lining because I'm not going to be trying it on, so there's no problem about me pinning myself. But that's the reason why you have do this one with safety pins, because if you're going to be trying it on, you're not going to be wanting to be prick yourself, and it's a safer option. So I'm going to take it to the machine and start sewing them. So I'm going to start just sewing down the side seams, and with these I'll just undo the pins as I'm coming to them. As I'm stitching, I'm just aiming for the end of that pin, so I'm coming down at an angle. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all on the skirt is I'm going to redo the hem. So I'm going to make sure again all the overlocking is tucked inside. So what I'm going to do now is where the overlocking is that I've just come off at the top, I'm simply going to tuck that down and basically secure it in place, cut any excess threads off, go to the opposite side, same again, fold the overlocking down, stitch that in place and cut all the excess cottons off. Now with the lining, I'm just going to do the same. I'm going to get the overlocking, tuck it down and just stitch it so that there's going to be no ugly threads hanging down. It's just all nice and neat and secured. Let's do the opposite side. There's a bit too much there, so let me cut a bit of that off. Let's cut that off. Right, so we're going to go now in the room and do the elastic bit. So I've got the skirt, I've turned it right side to the right side, and I'm going to place the lining with the wrong side. You can see the wrong side there. So I'm going to place that, so I've got right side, but this is the back of the skirt because the split's there. So I'm going to place that, so when that's in together, I've got the wrong side of the skirt facing the wrong side of the lining. And I'm going to simply start by clipping that back seam together Let me get all that bulk of thread there cut off and out of the way, and I'm going to clip that. Okay, I'm going to go to the side seam and I'm going to clip those together. I'm going to go to the other side seam and clip those together. And then I'll just put a clip roughly at the centre of the beginning, just to hold that in place. So that is the skirt with its lining in, and then you've got there where you look on the inside, that's the right side of the lining. Right, so what I need to do now with the elastic, so this is the white elastic that I'm going to be putting on the waist, and I'm simply going to take that, and where the top of the skirt is going to sit, and I just want to work out let's have that a little bit tighter. Yeah, so that's as tight as I want it. That's going to be quite comfortable, that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the elastic an inch past where it was, and what's that's going to allow for? It's going to allow for the overlap. Yeah, that's great. So what I'm going to go and do at this point, and I'm going to do it off camera because literally you're not missing anything, but I'm just going to overlap that by an inch and I'm going to stitch it in place. I'm going to take these and I'm just going to top stitch it around the machine around the top. That's all I'm going to be doing. So there I have my loop, and I've just literally stitched around it like so. The top of the skirt, all I've done is I've gone around and I've literally just stitched those together. So with the elastic here, I'm going to split this into 4 quarters. So I've put that in half. That's where they join, so I don't need clip there, and I'm simply going to clip here to get the quarters. So on the front of the skirt, I don't have to do the back because I've got a seam and I've got 2 side seams, but on the front, where's my side seam there? I need to measure, get the side seams together, and I need to just put a clip in there. So that's my centre front of the skirt. So I've got a clip there in the middle, so that is 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, to make sure that the elastic is the same. Each quarter has got the same amount of stretch in it. So I'm going to start off at the back, and that's where I'm going to put the where I've sewn it, and I'm going to be putting the elastic on the inside where the lining is. So at this point, I'm putting where I've clipped the elastic, I'm putting that to the next seam and lining it up and then pinning it in place. I'm going to the other clip that I've got in the centre of the front and I'm lining it up with the other clip, clipping that in place. And then my other seam, I'm going to clip that to where the clip is, lining it up. And then when you're looking at that, you see you've got the same amount of gather that's going into each piece of fabric. You can't really see from that, but see there, see there. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to go back to the machine and finish this off. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to do it, stitch it down first before I overlock it and neaten it. It doesn't matter really where you start. but just make sure that your elastic's lined up with the edge of your fabric. Give it that little back tack, and then I'm just going to pull that where that clip is, so this is just stretching it out nice and even. Just pull that to the clip. Okay, I'm just going to take the clip off now, go to the clip, and then I'm going to pull it again and hold that in the middle, and then I'm just going to stitch that down. Just come a bit over there, but that's okay. So it's all right. I'm going to start overlocking around this, and I'm going to have the fabric facing up, because the stitch is always neater on top than underneath with an overlocker. And I'm going nice and steady because it's quite thick, that I don't want to break any needles. Okay guys, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to be stitching in the ditch now on the seams. And what the ditch is the seam. So where the seam is there, I'm going to get the elastic, I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to have the right side of the fabric facing up so I can see the seam, and I'm aiming to stitch in that seam. I'm going to be doing this on all 3 seams that I've got. Stitching in the ditch, that's where it's been stitched here, but you can't see it because you're stitching in the seam. So that skirt is now finished, so I'm going to go and try it on and see what it looks like. So this is the finished skirt, guys. You can see I've tapered it down quite a lot, so I've got the 50s vibes with it. So I hope you've enjoyed this little make, guys. Now there's one thing that I did do when I tried it on. I actually tried it on the day after I made it, and I wasn't happy with the lining, because when you was walking from the back you could see the lining in between the split. Now what I did was I actually cut it level with the top of the split on the main fabric, and then I overlocked round it and I turned it up 1 centimetre, so it's just 1 centimetre short. So now you don't see any of the lining when you're walking, which makes it look quite a lot better. I love this one. I think it's got such a 50s feel to it because I've tapered it in that much, and it's such an easy job to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this little transformation. So thanks for joining me, guys. Take care for now and see you soon. Bye for now.